Ultimately, there were a lot of influences, inspirations, experiences that went into my decision to create the book and my desire to do that. But really, one of the most important early on was the fact that I was just dissatisfied with what was happening in my own state. I've been a grassroots organizer in the state of Wisconsin for the past 5 or 6 years, and of those, the last 2 or 3 have been devoted almost exclusively to fighting what I consider to be false education reforms, such as the Common Core state standards, high stakes assessments, and rigged accountability systems for teachers, schools, and districts. What I noticed was that people in Wisconsin who really should be talking about these issues together and partnering to stop the bad stuff from happening not only weren't talking, but that there seemed to be some pretty significant impediments to their doing so, to having real open communication. So really, initially, one of the things that I was looking to do was create a space in which honest, open dialogue could happen and in which trust could develop and partnerships could begin to happen to stop some of the bad stuff happening in education. Well, without doubt, one of the most important was my very first meeting with a gentleman by the name of Tim Slacker. And Tim had at that time just become the dean of the School of Education at a small private college in the Madison area where I live. And he is also the co-founder of United Opt-out, which is just an amazing organization that helps educate nationally on the true nature of high-stakes assessments and also assists parents on a state-by-state basis in figuring out how to opt their children out of those assessments and what the value of that is. A friend of mine had come to me and told me about Tim. He said, hey, there's this new guy in town, and while I don't know that you have a lot in common in other subjects, you definitely seem to have a lot in common on education. Maybe this is somebody you should sit down with, have a meeting with, see if you can make some good things happen together. Well, first of all, I think it's probably safe to say that there was at least a little trepidation on both sides, because I don't think either of us had ever sat down with somebody who identified so differently from each other politically and ideologically, or at least ostensibly. But I think that was also the thing that made the meeting really exciting and kind of enticing, and I think we both had a fair amount of hope going into the meeting that this could be something extraordinary. And in fact, it was. There were several of us gathered around the table that day. It was Tim, myself, and 2 other folks from the grassroots in the Madison area. And what we discovered over the course of a 2-hour cup of coffee and a lot of engaging discussion is that we had a ton in common on what education should look like, what it shouldn't look like, what needed actually to be stopped. But we discovered that we liked each other personally. And that was a very exciting thing, because we did discover that we would be able to partner. It was such an exciting thing that I began to really think about how that experience, that revelation, could be scaled out so that other people could experience it as well. And even within our little community that we'd started to develop, it did start to scale out. The next time we met, Tim brought along a friend, Jed Hopkins, and ultimately Tim and Jed became authors in the book.